It is said that there's an ancient weapon on Wano that is Pluton. And why would that not be Toki slash Emu, the person who is fucking with him? And I could be nitpicking here, but the scene where she's holding Momonosuke and his sister in that fucking room, her hair looks dark. She's silhouetted in a way that kind of resembles Emu. That's just me nitpicking, but why does she look like that? Okay, I personally believe that Toki is Emu. And then let me break this theory down. Alright, Toki is from 800 years ago, and Emu has ruled since the Void Century. Both of them exist outside of normal historical continuity. So, like, we don't really know when either one of them started. We just know where they came into the story. And from everything I can see from both of them, both of their powers are kind of cracked and still not fully explored. I think they are two sides to the same coin. Now, a Devil Fruit awakening is, most times when we see it, an identity transformation. Luffy has turned into Joy Boy somehow. Like things like that happen. These people turn into fucking dinosaurs, and they're a whole new person now. I don't know. There's a whole thing behind it, but they don't just boost power. They also change how a Devil Fruit interacts with reality. Paramecia awakenings alter the environment, and zone awakenings alter the identity of a person. So, imagine a time-based Paramecia awakening. That would plausibly allow someone to anchor themselves outside of a timeline, creating they'd be able to create a fixed point, immune to everything. They'd be able to observe all the future and, everything without aging. That would effectively create a timeless sovereign, which is what Emu is, a timeless sovereign. So the awakening of Toki's fruit would create Emu. That's plain and simple right there. And when you look at the things that Emu does, that is, it is things that a time god would do. Emu is not doing the same shit that celestial dragons are doing. Emu is erasing things. Emu does not conquer. Emu removes stuff. Emu erases nations. Emu erases names. Emu erases history. Emu is trying to extinguish light. If you live forever, if you're a time god, that's what you would be trying to do. If you cannot change the past, you'd move the branches. You prune timelines by removing variables. That is time governance. That's not tyranny. Emu doesn't give a fuck about slaves. That's all the celestial dragons and their bullshit. That's the misdirection. Emu is Toki. Deleting time. And if Hawkeye's Mihawk is the son of Emu as well as Momonosuke, it would, make sense of him being a sword character, and also, like, he could potentially have been born outside of time, which is why he's fucking Hawkeye's Mihawk. So I'm gonna just fucking break that down later, but alright. So when Toki escapes death in Wano, like I said, burning in a house fire. The house fire burns down. There's no body confirmed, and you go to that the gravesite, the cemetery, whatever. All the rest of the headstones were fake. Why not hers too? Why not that be like the biggest Easter egg of all time? Was like every single headstone over there was fake. And I've said already earlier, her powers are way too convenient to die in a house fire. Another thing this would make sense of is the Kozuki betrayal. It makes sense now. Because why wouldn't the world government fear Wano? Why wouldn't they fear opening the borders and fear the Kozuki bloodline? The Kozuki would be the only people who know how to undo Emu's temporal anchor. They created the poneglyphs. The poneglyphs are time-locked data immune to erasure. Emu can't get to them. Emu can't erase them. It's time-locked data. The poneglyphs are timeless. The poneglyphs it's just so fucking cool. The poneglyphs are locked in time forever. So it's like Emu can't touch them. That's why they must be scattered, and that's why reading them threatens Emu directly. And that also means, just to me, that the One Piece would have to be a mechanism that pulls all timelines back into one shared present, which would end Emu's temporal sovereignty and restore balance to the world. And me personally, I believe that Roger laughed because he saw the solution, but knew that he couldn't exist at the moment that it activates, which is why he laughed and said, "We're too early." Alright, so now you look at Joy Boy versus Emu. And when you break that down and simplify it, it is just freedom versus temporal determinism. And if that doesn't fucking have Oda written all over it, I don't know what you've been reading or watching. Freedom versus temporal determinism. So it's like Luffy is so fucking unpredictable. His fruit defies logic. He bends narrative shit. He's bouncing off your fucking TV monitor. A fucking time sovereign cannot control chaos. That is the two biggest things clashing. That is Joy Boy versus Emu. That is Luffy versus Emu. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing. So like, Joy Boy's haki had Emu shook, not because it was strong haki, but because it was defiance of sovereign control. Okay, so why is it when Emu destroys an island, she says things like, Lelouchia never existed? You know what I'm saying? Things like, this place never existed. Why is it that when Roger went to Laugh Tale, and he saw the quote-unquote One Piece, he laughed and said, we're here too soon? Why is the time fruit named after Toki? Why is it called the Toki no Mi? You know, doesn't it seem like that fruit should have another name than a not, you know, not the character's fucking name? Luffy's fruit's not called a Luffy no Mi. It's a very strange name for a fruit. Okay, and with the time fruit, you can time travel to the future. You can only time travel to the future, and you can only go to the future, and you can send other people and objects into the future. Okay, but what is the awakening of this devil fruit? And I know a few people are going to be thinking, Toki's dead. You know, Toki died. But how many characters do we know who have died and still had their devil fruit take over and or awaken? Brook is a prime example. Fucking the main character of the show, Monkey D. Luffy. Have you ever wondered what it would look like to awaken time? Could you perhaps wipe items from existence and dictate how certain people, places, and things live out their time and their existence? You know, when Toki died, quote unquote, she said she was staying in Wano. However, she never said when in Wano she was staying. She just said, I'm going to stay in the land of Wano. She said, I'm going to stay in Wano. Didn't say when. That's very important with her power. And I would also like to add, for someone with that power, a house fire is a very convenient way to die. You know, why not just fast forward to the future when the house was already burnt down or something? You know, why not transport yourself to safety in the future? It's a very, very interesting way to die. What I'm thinking is more likely is that the fruit would operate kind of like Bonnie's devil fruit, or even, let's say she jumped to a future, you know, because she was wounded. Let's say she jumped to a future where she would be immortal, or, you know, like immune to the circumstance that she's in, and that's the state that she would forever have to live out. In theory, Bonnie can turn into Nika because she can use her devil fruit to, you know what I'm saying, transport her body into the future. But if your devil fruit was time, you would, you know what I'm saying, transport yourself, or I don't even know how to describe it, but into a future where you are immune to that. And that's why we get just the big blob character of this thing that is not even human anymore. And she can't go back to the past. And, you know, so for there to be an existence, you'd have to define and shape your reality as it comes at you. Thus, like, plugging and placing and erasing thing, and, you know what I'm saying, pruning branches. You can't go back to the past. Even, it's already been explained with her devil fruit. Her only control over history is the erasure and delay. So how do you fucking preserve truth against a time sovereign? You create objects that are fixed to the moment of their creation, unaffected by the future shit, and immune to timeline pruning. That's exactly what the poneglyphs are behaving like in the fucking narrative story. They're frozen objects in time. The poneglyphs have existed throughout all this time. The stones can be broken, the text can be altered, and the language is unique and controlled. They didn't encode letters, they encoded a state of being. And in the canon, Emu destroys islands, eliminates bloodlines, deletes names from maps, and burns libraries. But never one time does Emu destroy a fucking poneglyph. Why? Because from Emu's perspective, they are already in the past, and you cannot alter them without collapsing your own anchor. So destroying a poneglyph would be like a time traveler killing their own grandfather or some shit. You know, it's like deleting the fucking save file that you're on. So that's why, like, Emu's whole strategy is remove the readers, not the records. That's why the fucking scholars die. That's why O'Hara got burned down, and that's why Nico Robin is important to the whole fucking story. Okay? So if the poneglyphs were just history, then you'd compile them. But instead, they're fucking, you know, spread out all over the fucking world. And some are movable, but some are fixed, alright? And some of them require certain bloodlines to reach. So each poneglyph is a partial piece of reality. And like each partial piece of reality needs to be read in the correct, like at the correct time by the correct person for fucking, like, I don't know, for the truth to be revealed. And the truth is the One Piece. The dawn of the world isn't metaphorical. It's when all the fucking anchors resync together and Imu's detached existence collapses back into time. History becomes continuous again. You know what I'm saying? Like, and not just inherited will. So like, that's why opening Wano matters, because Wano is a fucking temporal node. So to the structure, the One Piece would have literal meaning. It would be one timeline, one history, one world, with no erasures, no gods, no one frozen, you know what I'm saying, in time or outside of time. And the reason that Luffy can activate it is because Luffy invalidates deterministic systems. Like I said, he's chaotic. So the future cannot be, like, Luffy's existence proves that the future cannot be controlled. It proves that inherited will outspaces time manipulation and freedom beats foresight. And then I'm going to use this to explain devil fruits. Devil fruits are desires fixed in time. The biggest hint for that is that devil fruits are born from people's dreams. And that line becomes literal under this entire framework. People attempted to change reality during the Void Century. Some desires were impossible to fulfill in that era. So instead of manifesting when they had the desire, like let's say Joy Boy had a dream that he wanted to manifest, you know? Instead of manifesting during his lifetime, the fruit reincarnated, and, you know what I'm saying, and now Livy is living out that will. And this is gonna sound fucked up, but like, devil fruits are time displaced wishes, which is why the sea does not like them, because they're not a part of that timeline. They feel wrong even to the sea, as the sea represents continuity and natural order, and devil fruits are temporal intrusions. And this also explains why Haki counters them, because ancient powers feel heavier than modern ones. Now we can get to Blackbeard. Blackbeard is the man who steals from time. He can wield multiple devil fruits, he doesn't sleep, he is built different, his flagship is called the Saber of Zebek, and he seeks specific fruits, not random power. So under this theory, Blackbeard is not absorbing powers, he's hijacking time-displaced will. Like if devil fruits are time-fossilized desires, then Blackbeard's ability is not darkness, but absorption of temporal residue. Darkness, gravity, equals the collapse of displaced timelines into one body. That's why the powers don't reject him, and his body doesn't break. He can stack impossibilities. He's not breaking the rules. He's operating below them. Like think about what his devil fruit is. The Yami Yami no Mi. It doesn't behave like any other Logia. There's no intangibility, it absorbs everything, and it amplifies pain. It cancels out other devil fruits. It's because it's not darkness. It is temporal gravity. Like the pull towards a single present. So when Blackbeard touches a devil fruit user, their time-displaced power is forcibly re-anchored. The illusion breaks. The fucking sea... Bro. Alright, I'm calm. But okay, this is why Blackbeard wants the world to end. And it's like not for ideology. Blackbeard is not a liberator like Luffy, and he is not a controller like Imu. He wants the final convergence. He wants the collapse of time locks. He wants maximum devil fruit destabilization. Because when the system breaks, he becomes the singular container for stolen futures. He doesn't want freedom, he wants everything. So people are always like, the sea is rising, the sea level is rising because of the fucking mother flame and this big sea blast. But the reality is now, the sea represents continuity, memory, and the natural flow of time. So when destabilized, the sea rises. It's like the sea acts as a system-wide immune response. It's immune to fucking devil fruits. You know what I'm saying? It's like a fucking allergic reaction when a devil fruit user is in it. And there's so much history in the sea. The sea doesn't hate devil fruit users. It contains them. It's trying to contain the instability. That's why there's so many ancient civilizations and so much fucking history down there. It's trying to contain all the shit that's supposed to be in the past that doesn't match with the continuity of the current timeline. So Emu herself, rather than, you know what I'm saying, Emu understands the flooding of the world. So rather than stop the process of flooding, Emu controls the flood and uses the red line as a dam. Like, Emu is keeping these civilizations fragmented and prevents a full convergence. Because a full convergence would mean that Emu loses temporal sovereignty. So the Blackbeard versus Emu matchup is like legit inevitable. It's the real in-game conflict. It's because Emu is the freezer of time and the pruner of time. Blackbeard, it can bring about the collapse of time and stealing futures, and Luffy is the one person who wants to let time flow freely. So Blackbeard is Emu's direct threat, not Luffy. It's because he can absorb Emu's temporal anchor, and he doesn't care if the world survives. He accelerates the convergence prematurely. So Emu is definitely, like, if anything, Emu fears Blackbeard more than Luffy, because if Luffy ends Emu, Luffy still runs into the problem that Blackbeard could potentially become Emu. So the sea level will finally fall in the end, and like, this is the hopeful part, but the sea level will finally fall in the end when the One Piece is activated and all the poneglyphs synchronize, because Emu will be reinserted into time and Blackbeard will be stopped from monopolizing the convergence, because the devil fruits will lose their time displacement and the sea will no longer need to reject them. And like, you know, the red line's probably going to collapse and the water's probably going to redistribute and all the fucking sunken land is going to resurface, and there's going to be, you know, the world's going to be made into one piece, one sea, one history, and one timeline. Alright, I understand I just said a lot, but here's the emotional core of my entire argument. If each devil fruit is someone's inherited will, what is the inherited will of the Toki Toki no Mi? In my personal theory, I think that the inherited will was, I want to survive long enough to see the world become free. Not conquest, not power, but endurance. That's the desire of someone living in a collapsing civilization, a losing war, you know, the void century, a world being erased faster than it can be saved. They didn't ask to change the past, they didn't ask to rule the future. You know, they asked to just genuinely outlast despair. And just something to add on to that, you could also be the last witness to something. So when we first hear, just trying to find Wano, the home of the creators of the poneglyphs. So, you know, I feel like she was already looking for those poneglyphs for that history, you know, in the beginning. And then Odin and whatever else happened, when she's sitting there at that fire and she takes that last arrow and she's giving that last speech and talking about the dawn, who's to say that she doesn't lose hope and, you know what I'm saying, become Emu, the ruler of all time forever? No one alive understands time travel fully. No one knows Toki's full jump pattern. No one knows Emu's true origin, and nobody's allowed to ask. The world government ensures that the timelines are never compared, and that the void century remains blank, and also that the fucking Kazuki knowledge stays isolated. And the last connection that I will make is, they originate in the same erased century. One disappears as the other appears. One manipulates time forward, and the other governs history backwards through erasure. They both exist outside of normal aging and continuity. Like, Oda specifically avoids confirming either's full life cycle.
That's how Dad did it. That's how America does it. And it's worked out pretty well so far.